some of the things that I mention are going to be small, obscure publications that you've never heard of. Some of the ones that I talk about are going to be big name ones that you have heard of. This video is all about where I get information or where I enjoy getting information. You see, you come here and you watch my videos and I'm articulating semi-complex subject matter in ways that you can understand. But I don't just sit here with just a natural knowledge of this stuff. I learn from those around me. I learn from doctors. I learn from specific publications. I learn from my team. And I want to share with you what I would consider my favorite resources. In no particular order, in no real biased opinion, just straight up what I think are really good resources. Big, small, whatever. I do want to ask that you hit that red subscribe button and then hit that little bell icon so you can turn on notifications. All right. Hey, so the first thing that I need to address is my own experience, okay? So if you know my channel, then you probably know my story, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on it, but I was close to 300 pounds. I've lost about 110 pounds utilizing the ketogenic diet, utilizing intermittent fasting, utilizing carb cycling, kind of a myriad of the three, right? Okay, but the thing is that with that kind of weight loss comes a lot of experience, and I worked in the healthcare world, okay? I had a group of about 1,200 physicians that I worked with. So the point was that I had a lot of just information around me when I was going through my transformation that kind of planted the seed and got me excited about all the scientific research that's out there surrounding these metabolically flexible ways of eating, right? Conditioning yourself to be fat adapted, fasting, things like that, all about metabolic flexibility. Point is that the foundational knowledge was planted in my mind based on my own experience, but I enrich it via other avenues. Probably the main one is going to simply be PubMed. Good old-fashioned PubMed.com, right? Be your own educator. Okay, 27 million citations on PubMed. You need to go and you need to find your own research that supports what you are looking for at that point in time. And it's important to know that research conflicts constantly. Okay, so I can talk about one study one day and find a study that conflicts it the other day, but there's a practical application in each setting depending on what you're doing, right? So you need to find what works for you, and I encourage you to just dive into PubMed, and trust me, it is complicated because there's so much information out there, but that's a lot of where I get my information. And the thing is you know, you find the abstract and you can at least get a solid conclusion, and sometimes you get an opportunity to go and review the full paper, sometimes you have to pay for it and rent it. The point is that you need to be your own educator and you need to connect your own dots. But that's not the answer you're looking for. So let's go ahead and let's move on to the next one. Okay, certain books. Okay, there are books that I like that usually reference question and answer format. A book that I recommend is one called Keto Answers by Dr. Anthony Gustin. So that's a really good book. So it's like 300 different questions that are laid out around the ketogenic diet. So you can always go check out that book. You have to be careful with a lot of books because a lot of them end up being ghost-written and they're not really the actual knowledge that you want coming from the person that you think it's coming from. But the nice thing about Keto Answers is I reference that book all the time. Okay, so that's a perfect way to just find quick resource of, hey, quick question about keto, can I get a solid answer on it? Okay, so that's a big source for me. Then of course I have to talk about my team, right? Okay, I've got Matt, who's kind of my right-hand man, who's always researching and always finding new compelling things. And then it's our job to sit together and connect the dots. We're just nerds, okay? We sit and we nerd out. There's no denying the fact that you have to be a little bit of just an inherent nerd to enjoy this. Then I have Nick Norwitz over at Oxford University. He helps me out a lot too. Cutting edge research, newer stuff, things that people don't necessarily have access to. And he's got a great way of explaining things too. You are only as good as the people that you surround yourself around. You are not going to be just perfect by yourself, okay? Now, the next piece is going to be digital publications, all right? Like going online, certain .com websites, right? So one that I recommend when it comes down to workout content, it's called BarBend.com. That's a really good one because it's all science-backed, it's all really good research, and the amount of content that they put out each day is unbelievable. Okay, so BarBend.com, and then you can also take the information that you get there and cross-reference with stuff over at PubMed. So if you're looking at like workout design, if you're looking at different ways to periodize, I get a lot of my insight from that because they pride themselves on not being biased or not being one-sided, right? They get just opinions and subjects and research from all over the place, so then I can formulate my own opinion and then cross-reference where I need to. Then when it comes down to like supplement research, examine.com is always great because it gives the good, the bad, and the ugly with mainstream supplements and understanding formulations and understanding what goes into a compound and what the mechanism of action is. It's just important that you know what you're putting in your body. And I'm just giving you the basic foundation here, right? But now let's talk about some other things, right? You guys watch YouTube, you guys listen to podcasts. Let me give you a few of the podcasts that I would recommend. Okay, the first podcast that I would recommend is going to be Keto Answers podcast. Okay, also by Anthony Gustin. So it's not just because he's a friend of mine, it's because I've been on his show a few times and I actually like the subject matter. Okay, it's always an interview format, he's always got good guests, but I'm gonna divide this into sort of 3 categories. So Keto Answers is a good podcast if you're interested in a little bit more digestible forms, right? So it's complex enough, but it's not so complex that your brain is gonna be spinning, right? So next up is gonna be Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She has a podcast called Found My Fitness. Now the cool thing about Rhonda is she's focused on like longevity and metabolic conditioning as well. So a lot of her research is in the world of mitochondrial health. So she did her graduate research at St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and it was all in the world of mitochondrial health. So all in the world of the metabolism. So she truly is an expert when it comes down to fasting, when it comes down to prolonged fasting. But quite honestly, the thing I like most about her podcast, about Rhonda Patrick, is her focus on hormetic stressors. Sauna, cold therapy, things like that. How do you stress your body to get an adaptive response? So she's kind of a little bit more advanced, a little bit more scientific, but still in the world of somewhat digestible, right? Then we advance all the way down to Peter Attia. So the Peter Attia Drive. Really good podcast if you're trying to get a little bit more in depth. So he's got a big oncology background. So he came out of Stanford and Johns Hopkins. He's really, really awesome. So he's a trained physician. So his stuff's a little bit more complicated. So if you're entry level, Peter might not be for you. So I recommend starting at Keto Answers, then starting to get a little bit more of Rhonda Patrick, and then get a little bit more of Peter Attia. These are just people that I listen to have more, I don't know, provoked thoughts, right? To think, okay, outside the box of what I see in my own ecosystem. Now let's talk about things to avoid at all costs, things that are gonna send you down the wrong rabbit holes and are gonna confuse you. I will honestly say 98% of YouTube, okay? I say that with a grain of salt because I am on YouTube. And you know what? Even I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot, and I usually call myself out on it. But most people are blatantly wrong on YouTube, and I'm not even gonna name names. The point is like they are blatantly wrong and they know it, and they do what they can to get views. Anytime that the system can be gamed algorithmically to get views, like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that shouldn't be your go-to source. You should cross-reference the people that you listen to. For example, Anthony Gustin. For example, BarBend, okay, across different social medias, good quality. Rhonda Patrick, Peter Attia, all these really, really good. You just gotta be careful. Next up is definitely going to be avoiding fitness magazines. Okay, as someone that came out of the fitness industry, I will honestly tell you that most of them are garbage. Most of them are just telling you ultimately what's going to circumnavigate to buy a supplement on the next page. So just be very, very careful with that. Now another one, like I mentioned before, is be careful with most books. Books are not always the best educational resource in terms of nonfiction. In fact, in an interview with NPR, it was found that approximately 60% of nonfiction books were written by ghostwriters. Okay, usually because they want celebrity names to be able to sell the books, but the celebrities don't have time or the ability to write a book, so they get a ghostwriter. So the point is, you think that you're getting the information from that source, but it's usually, God, it's gone through so many different games of telephone along the line, the message is not the same. So I just encourage you to be careful with books, because not always the best source. Now, the last one that you absolutely just need to be aware of, and you should just tune out 100% without a doubt, is the loudmouth at the gym. And I know a lot of you are saying, oh my gosh, I don't listen to that guy anyway, but the fact is a lot of you probably do too, even if it's inadvertently. That's the guy that just walks around the gym, doesn't really work out, just walks around, just having the executive jaw workout the whole time. Okay. In fact, what's interesting is a study that was published in The Telegraph found that 1 out of 3 people that go to the gym admittedly don't even break a sweat because they're talking most of the time. Are these the kind of people that you want to be taking workout advice from or nutrition advice from? Because the funny thing is more often than not, they're the people that are talking about nutrition advice and workout advice. Walking around, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do that because I read it or I saw it. They can't even practically apply it themselves, okay? So just you be you. You focus on you, and most importantly, above all else, take everything that I've talked about and apply it to you, because that is how it's going to work. And what you receive out of all the content and everything that you consume is totally different than what the person next to you will consume and what they will actually translate and perceive out of it. You be you. But anyhow, hope this gives you a little bit of a start, some places that you can research and just become your own advocate for your own health. As always, I'll see you soon.